XML, right?
Yes, sir.
So what exactly is the use of XML? Why we discussed about XML? Have you all attended last class?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
So then what is the use of XML? Why we are talking about XML?
Sir,
It
it is
is
a
only
time.
22 students, including myself, which means that 21 only there. What about the others? Is there any placement happening today?
Yes, sir. I think IBM company is going.
Okay.
It is at
So
10 o'clock.
these 21 people, have they attended the last session on XML?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Then tell me why we start discussing about XML. This subject is advanced database. So why do we start talking about XML? XML is a markup language, right?
Yes, extensible markup language. You started telling about how we use it to represent the structure. You even spoke about MongoDB and then the declaring elements and stuff,
Yes.
the types of elements.
Yeah. See. So what we discussed was we initially discussed about distributed database, and there the database what we are using was, I mean, Oracle was the example we used or MySQL as the example we used. Both are relational DBMS or RDBMS. Now, even though there is a concept of heterogeneous distributed database concept is also there, but we haven't discussed anything about any database other than relational DBMS till that time. Then when we looked into the kind of data what we are having in a mobile application or some other similar context, we found that the data is not structured like it can be represented easily using a relation or a tabular architecture. So if the data is unstructured or if the data is in a different format which cannot be represented using a rigid table structure, then we need to think about different types of databases. That's how we started talking about document oriented databases. And then we introduced about XML. And then suddenly that switching happens because XML was initially designed to use as a markup language. So like HTML, XML is also a markup language, and a markup language is designed to represent the data. You have a page to be shown to user, how to show it in a smarter and efficient way. That is what a markup language was used. But HTML contains all predefined keywords. That means a user cannot add any new keyword. To avoid that, entire tags was defined by the user in case of XML. But then it has also a disadvantage because HTML, if you design a page, it is universally accepted. Every browser will be able to understand what it is. But in case of XML, you need to provide the meaning of these tags also, or I can say tag library also. So that was some limitation in terms of markup language. So then people started identifying XML as a mean to exchange data. Why? Because I know what is the meaning of the tags. You know the meaning of the tag. So if I create a document with only these data, I mean these tags, then what is the data embedded in that will be understood only by we both who knows the meaning of these tags. So a third person who doesn't have the meaning of the tags will not be able to understand what is the data you are passing in the document. So I can create an XML file and then send it in an open internet without having any security mechanism. Still, it will be not able, a third party, a hacker will not be able to access the content. So that's how XML started using as a data exchange mechanism. The same way people started using this as a data storage mechanism also. Because if I put the content into the form of an XML file, it is safe and secure in my laptop or any general storage structure, even into a cloud, because I only know the meaning of the tags. So if I wanted to extract some data out of it, I need to have an extra software called XML parser, which will understand, which will have already the tag meaning, and using that tag meaning, it will extract the data out of my XML document. So from markup language purpose to exchange of data to storage we reached. When it became a storage purpose, the XML started using as a storage mechanism. It is doing the job of a database, right? Database also we were talking to store the data and retrieve it in a easier way. So same thing is what going to happen with XML also. So instead of having a DBMS package, I need to have a XML parser and an XML document generator. These two tools, if I am having, then I can, what you call replace a DBMS structure with this tools. And the advantage is that you doesn't require the data to be in a rigid structured format. Rather, any unstructured data also can be represented using an XML document. So from RDBMS, we moved into document-oriented database, and XML becomes first example for that. And when you look into mobile applications, we said instead of XML, there is much easier mechanisms that is called MongoDB and unstructured, which is also referred as a NoSQL database. So that's where two streams of document-oriented database we discussed, and then we started off with XML. So when we discuss about XML, for every language, when we start talking about a language or when we try learning about a language, what we were trying to do was understand the syntax. But in case of XML, the good thing is that there is nothing needs to be remembered as keywords, because every tag and attribute is user defined. Then the problem is, if I am defining an XML document with set of tags, how will I tell the other person that this is the meaning of the tags? So to represent the structure of an XML document, we need to have some kind of means or mechanism. And that's what we were talking about, two schemes. Either we will use a document type definition or XML schema definition. We'll come back to the slides now. Okay, so this is what we have discussed last time, that instead of learning the tags, we are talking about structure of an XML document. So XML structure can be represented using either document type definition, in short DTD, or XML schema definition, in short XSD, can be used. So these are not XML documents. Rather, these are documents which will define the structure of an XML document. So now, why do we require two different types? DTD is the simpler one, and many things you cannot represent using the way of DTD. So an extended mechanism of DTD is introduced called XSD. Okay, and then we started talking about DTD. So when I define a DTD, I can share that with you so that you can first verify whether the XML file which I shared with you is in the proper structure or not, and also to understand what is the meaning of that XML document. Okay, so basically when XML allows you to create your own DTDs for application, and this gives you complete control over the process of checking the content and structure of XML document created for an application. So the process of verifying that your XML document is following the structure mentioned in the DTD is referred as validation. Okay, so in validation, what I will do is, in DTD I might have mentioned 4 tags are there, and each of the tag, this is the meaning and this is the way I need to use them. And there are attributes. This attribute is associated with this tag and so on. So this information I will check with the XML document, whether it has got only 4 tags. Yes. The order of those tags, correct. The attributes what you are mentioned, is it matching with the attributes you have mentioned in the DTD? Yes. Then I will say it is a valid XML document. And this process is referred as validation. Okay. So remember this term, validation and valid XML document. We will be doing this in the lab session. Okay. So what we will do is we will have an XML parser. You will write a DTD and you will only write an XML document and check whether your XML document is following the DTD or not. Sometimes the question can be that a scenario will be given to you and you need to understand what type of a DTD could be good for making the XML document for that scenario. Say, for example, I have a store and I am going to have bill information, and your bill information has to be stored as an XML document. So then you need to come up with a DTD which will say there should be a bill number, there should be a date, there should be a name of purchaser, and then address, then items. Inside the items, you can have item ID as an attribute, price of the item, quantity of the item, or two other tags what you can have. And the order of these things should be like this. Then total price you can calculate and put it. So you will formulate a structure. So for the given scenario, you will write a DTD. Then you need to check. You will create a sample bill and check whether that sample bill is validating against the DTD or not. So that time the parser will help you to do it. Okay. So we will do that in the coming lab session. Okay. So remember the term validation and valid XML document. So now the next step is how will I generate my DTD or how will I develop my DTD? So two things are there in an XML document, two basic components. One, element equivalent to tag in HTML. Okay. So whatever you write in angle brackets in HTML is referred as a tag. So same user defined tag in an XML document is referred as an element. And attributes are part of elements, or I can say features of elements. Okay. So two basic components, elements and attributes. How will I define an element is the first step. So I use the keyword element and I'm going to write the same way how I write an XML document. Okay. So I will use angle brackets. Both sides you can see angle brackets. And to indicate that it is a DTD declaration, I'm going to use the exclamation mark. This exclamation mark you will not see in a normal XML document. Only you will see in the DTD part. So angle brackets, exclamation mark, then the keyword element. This will say that this is a DTD declaration of an element in your DTD. Then you need to give some element name. Like in the example what we have mentioned, we said bill number is an element. Then the element name will be bill number. Then in bracket, I will be saying what is that? What type of element it is? Okay. Is it contains some text data? Is it contains some other elements as sub elements? That can happen, right? Say bill number, you said. That will contain a text data, some number. Whereas address, if you say, address can have child elements. I can say street, then say, like pin number or locality or district, state. These things can be child elements. So is it a text content element or is it a container type element? I can mention that. So that's what in the bracket I'm going to mention. Okay. So then bracket close, angle bracket close. That will be declaration of one element. Now suppose in my what you call XML document, you have 10 such elements. You will have 10 such declarations like this. Okay. So there are some naming conventions for elements. That means a valid element name will be following these rules. The rules are it should consist of at least one letter. So which means that 1, 2, 3 is not a valid element according to DTD. But A123 can be considered. And that letter may be uppercase or lowercase, no difference. I'm not saying that it is not case sensitive. I'm saying you can use uppercase or lowercase. There is no, restrictions on that. An element name may start with an underscore. So element name, you will either start with a letter or it can start with an underscore. One or more letters, digits, hyphens, underscore, or full stops can follow the initial letter. So the possible combinations are, you can have letters, you can have digits, you can have hyphen, underscore, and full stop. So 3 special characters only we can use it, other than letters and numbers. One is hyphen, the other one is underscore, and the third one is full stop. And this underscore can come in the beginning. None of the other things can come in the beginning. Just a second, guys. Class started, so little bit. So that's about the rules what we can follow. Space and tabs are not allowed, and only 2 punctuation signs, hyphen and period, are allowed in element names other than underscore. Okay, so that's about naming conventions for an element. Now we said whether an element can contain some text content or it can contain other elements. Okay, basically 3 types of elements are there. One is called empty, that means no content, and marked up as empty element. It will be easy to relate with HTML. So I will take examples from HTML to understand what you mean by an empty element. You have seen HR or BR as tags in HTML. What is the use of HR or BR?
BR is for next line, no, sir.
Yes, break.
HR for
One
horizontal
line break
break.
will be. Yes,
Is it?
and HR?
Horizontal line.
It is called horizontal rule. You need to have a line separation between the contents. You can use it. Okay. So basically, both of them are specific to the content. One line space should be given, or one line needs to be displayed. Okay. So anyway, there will be no any content which you are going to represent using that. When you say HR, one line will be drawn. When you say BR, one line space will be given. So these tags, if you see, it doesn't have a start tag and end tag separately. It has only one tag part. HR if you write, or BR if you write, that's enough. It doesn't require an end tag part. Otherwise, if you see all the HTML tags, that will have a start tag and end tag part. Say for example, paragraph tag P. You will start P, open bracket, open angle bracket, P, close angle bracket, and then you will write some content, and then you need to stop it by mentioning the bottom, where it is ending it. So there you will write an end tag, angle bracket, slash symbol, P, closing the bracket. Now that is referred as end tag. So start tag and end tag will be there for almost all tags, but there are certain tags which doesn't have start tag and end tag, rather it is having only start tag. Those are referred as empty tags. So HR and BR are examples of that. So same way, when I am defining my tags in XML, I can have a tag which may require only what you call start tag alone. That means it doesn't require any add content in that. Say for example, bill number. Okay, I can make bill number as a tag with some content. The information what needs to be represented is I can store it either in between the start tag and end tag. In that case, that is not an empty tag. Or I can have an empty tag, but then the bill number needs to be stored somewhere. I can use that as an attribute. We will see examples of each of these. Okay. So right now, understand that empty tag means it doesn't have any content. So basically, it will not have any content. It can have an attribute. Okay. When we start writing DTD, it will be easy to understand. The second type is unrestricted. So it can have anything, can contain any element declared elsewhere in a DTD. So it can have content, text content, or it can have child elements. And the third type is very specific. It is a container tag. Container tag means it can contain other elements also. Okay. Say for example, div tag in HTML or span, span or div. These are two tags which are basically container tags in HTML. They themselves will not do anything, but features I can add to that block. So I can logically create a block in HTML page with the help of div or span. Okay, so it's basically used for applying style information. Style sheets you can apply to a division or a span. So such kind of container tags. That is the third type. So empty, unrestricted, and container. How will you declare an empty element? Is same thing. Angle bracket, exclamation mark, element, element name, and then the keyword empty I will use to explain. So BR is being declared as a XML tag, which is empty. Then the example shown here will be good enough to understand it. Okay, element, name of the element is BR and its type is empty. So when you declare like this, the corresponding valid XML tag information will be the bottom one. Angle bracket BR, that slash symbol is not really required. If you close BR with angle bracket also, it is fine, or you can do this way also. Okay, so that's empty elements. Unrestricted elements, we will replace that empty with the keyword any. Okay, so which means that it can have any content inside that. So I'm not restricting node to have text content only or container elements only. It can have anything. And the third one is declaring container element. Okay, so two examples are given. The first one is element name in bracket child1, which means that this particular tag, what I am declaring, is having a sub tag with the name child1. Suppose if I am having multiple child elements, then child1, comma, child2, comma, and then I can write. So suppose if I have 4 sub elements under my main element, I can put comma, 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 and then write it. But remember, the order in which you are writing here, the same order this should appear in your XML document. Say for example, your XML, sorry, DTD declaration is like this. Note is the name of the tag, and it has 4 child elements, 2 from, heading, and body. Okay, so in the same order, your XML document also it should appear. I should have a node tag. Inside that node tag, I will have 2 tag, from tag, heading tag, and then body tag. The order should be the same thing. If I change the order, DTD will say it is an invalid document. So when you declare a container tag, you are bringing up new tags because whatever I write in the bracket are also child elements. So I need to declare them. So I'm declaring them here, two from heading and body. Remember the term what I have used, PC data. It is short form of parsable character data. Okay. So basically it says that it is equivalent to string. You can have string content there. So it is a built-in data type available in your XML DTD declaration called PC data. Okay. Hash indicates that it is a built-in data type. Then if child elements are there, I may have a situation where the child element repeats. Okay, say for example, I'm talking about bill only, and each item will have an item ID, unit price, and quantity. Okay, so item I made it as a child element. Now what happens is in a bill you can have more than one item. Normal, right? You go to a shopping mall, you will purchase different items. You will purchase sometimes a dress, then you go and then purchase some other item. So items are different. So which means that inside my XML base element, I can have child element which is repeating. First item is with one particular item code and it has a unit price separate. It has some specification or something. Second item will have a different item code, different price, different specification. So I may have a situation of same child element repeating. So how will I handle that situation? And I don't know how many times it will repeat also, because I cannot say that one fellow can purchase maximum of 10 items. No such restrictions. You go, it is your wish to purchase 10 items or one item. So then how will I define such an XML DTD? Easy. I will have to figure out whether it is 0 or more occurrence, 1 or more occurrence, or 0 or 1 occurrence. I have correspondingly repetition, I mean multiple occurrence mechanism is there. Okay. If I have mentioned only one time the name of the element in the bracket, then only once it can occur. That means message tag can occur only once inside node tag. But if I write message plus, that means one or more number of times it can occur. No restrictions. Minimum one, maximum any number of times. Okay. But if I write star, then 0 or more occurrence. It may occur. It may not occur. It may occur 2 times, 3 times, 4 times, any number of times. That is also fine. It doesn't occur at all. That is also fine. In both cases, it is considered as valid. So that is star. Then this you will be very familiar with your regular language or automata, finite automata concepts. You are using star and plus quite often there. And question mark says 0 or 1 occurrence. 0 or 1 occurrence in the sense either it can occur one time or it can occur, I mean it may not occur at all. Okay. So when I say message question mark, either I can have one message maximum or no message at all. So that's about repetitions. Next is I may have this content or that content. Okay. Say for example, note will have 2 from header fixed. Fourth part, it can be a message or it can be body. Okay. Any of these things. So in that case, I will write a pipe symbol in between these. Message, pipe, body if I write in the bracket. That means either message will happen or body will happen. And how many times it will happen? Only once. Now I can put one or more number of times. Okay. Then I can have plus symbol on top of it. So you can combine previous repetition status plus this together. Okay. Now this is mixed content. Mixed content in the sense this note is having either a text content, that is what PC data means, or it can have a child element to, or it can have a child element from, or it can have a child element header, or it can have a child element message. and then you put a star also, which means that any of these things 0 or more number of times. So you can have text content and then to, then from, then header, then message, all valid. Why? Because 0 or more occurrence. So first occurrence PC data happens, second occurrence to happen, third occurrence from happens. That is also fine. Okay, so that is declaring a mixed content. So what we have till now spoken is about elements. So how to declare an element and then how to what should be the naming conventions we have seen. Then we said 3 types of elements we discussed: empty, unrestricted, and container. Then we discussed about empty elements, how to declare any. There is no restrictions on the content, how we will declare. Then container elements part we have seen. Then we discussed about occurrence part, that is child tags can occur one time or more number of times, that part we have seen. Plus if I put on the child element, that will occur only one or more number of times. Star if you put, it is 0 or more occurrence. And then question mark if I put, it is 0 or 1 occurrence. Then if this tag can be used or some other tag can be used, or it can be a mixed content also. So if I am saying that it is this tag or the other tag, this is using a pipe symbol I have to separate. And finally, it can be a mixed content where you will have contents from all the different types. Okay, so now we are good to write a DTD which contains all types of elements. Okay, but we said an XML document contains 2 basic components: elements and attributes. So how to declare an element, various different types and combinations we have seen now. Okay, the next thing what we have to understand is how to declare an attribute. Okay, now if I compare the attribute concept in HTML, in XML also the same concept. What are attributes in HTML? What are attributes in HTML, students?
Human head, body, paragraphs, and also.
So basically attributes are extra features what you wanted to give it to a particular element. Say body.
Oh, yes, color and then
Yes.
the styling
So,
elements.
if you take an example, color is an extra attribute extra feature I can give. Style I can give as an extra feature, like it can be italics, it can be bold or something. Type I can give the font type, that means whether it is in Times New Roman or Comic Sans or Courier, whatever it is. So extra features what I'm adding up to a element is what referred as attributes. So obviously your attributes needs connected to elements. Just a second. Okay. Yeah, fine. So attributes when you are defining, that should be attached to an element. Okay. Attributes alone, there is no existence, and you don't have a general attribute concept also. That means this attribute can be applied to anyone. That is also not there. Okay. So attributes will be always attached to a particular element. So the attributes are declared with a keyword called ATTLIST, attribute list. Okay, and I will be saying that angle bracket exclamation mark ATTLIST indicates that it is an attribute list. So you declare all your elements, then you start declaring attributes. Okay, element name, that means to which particular element you are attaching this attribute. That is the name of the element. Then attribute name, what is the name of the attribute? Then attribute type and default value. Attribute type in the sense same like element type, we have different types of attributes. And if you have any default value for that particular attribute, that means user forgot to define a value for that attribute. Then if should I take some default value, then that can be specified while declaring. Say for example, payment is an element and type is an attribute. Like online payment, right? Somebody has done through credit card, somebody has done through UPI, somebody has done through cash, someone has done through check. So payment is the name of the element. And extra feature what I'm going to give is type. What type of payment he did? Did UPI payment? He did it through credit card, he did it through check, or he did it direct cash. So type. And then C data. We have seen PC data, parsable character data in case of elements data type. In case of attributes data type, the same is called C data. Okay, to avoid confusion, different data type name we used. Okay, but this is a built-in data type what you can use. C data, that means character data. So type is a character data attribute and the default value is check. Okay, so which means even if I have forgotten to mention the attribute in my XML document, that XML documents, that particular attribute's default value will be checked. Okay, so it is syntactically verifying also, as well as it will provide a value also. Okay, so that's what about attribute declarations. So a valid XML statement for this particular attribute definition, you can see at the bottom, payment type equals to check. Okay, and remember when you are mentioning the value of your attribute, put that in double quotes. Okay, so that is about declaring attribute, and type of attribute can be these many, or these are the valid accepted XML attribute types. C data is the most common one. Then you can have an enumeration list. I hope you remember your C programming concepts where we have a concept of enumeration. I can have a set of values from which one value can be picked for this. So I can have enumeration 1, 2, 3. That means all the different values in that enumeration list. So separated by pipe symbol. Then what happens is out of that one value will be picked. It can have a unique ID. It can have ID reference, then entity. It can have notation. It can be a predefined XML value also sometimes. All those is different attribute types. Default value can be one of the following. Either I can give a value there, or I can specify that this particular attribute is a must in your XML document. That is hash required, I will write. If that is written, you cannot leave that attribute empty in your XML document. If you do that, it will go to invalidation. So if this attribute value is mandatory, I can write hash required. Okay. If I write hash implied, I'm saying that I have defined in my elements in my DTD, but it is not required. If I write hash fixed, then what I'm saying is it should have a fixed content, and the content I'm going to provide in my DTD. The same content should be the value of my attribute in the XML file. So suppose if I say company name, my XML document for the company. So company name cannot change. So I am saying attribute is company name, and I said company name is Amrita. So every XML document what I generate should have that attribute called company name, and its value should be Amrita. If I write anything else, that XML document will not be considered as a valid XML document. So this is an example here. Square is the name of the tag and width is the attribute. Default value is 0. I can give any value with that. So if I'm not giving anything, 0 will be considered. If I'm giving a value, that value will be considered. This is an example for hash required. Person, number is required. without that number, that particular XML document will not be considered as valid. This is implied. When you say implied, in the XML document, you may include, you may not include. In both these cases, it will be valid XML documents. And fixed, in that case, the XML document says that, I mean, whenever I'm making the XML document, it should have an attribute called company for the element sender. So that if that element is not there, then it is fine. If the attribute is not there, it will not be considered as a valid document. And this is an example of enumerated values, payment type. Either it can be check or it can be cash. It cannot be anything else. So either check or cash, any one value only you can pick. So those two are valid documents, and anything other than type equal to cash or check will be considered as invalid XML documents. Okay, we have came to the end of a DTD concept. Now we know how to write a DTD. We know how to define an element, how to write the attribute. Okay, so we will be able to write the DTD. So now DTD can be declared inline or external. When you say inline DTD, which means that your DTD part, writing declaration of DTD part is going to happen along with the XML document inside the XML document. Okay, or other way, I can write a separate DTD file and then use it. So when we will use inline, when we will use external is general one. I write a DTD, all the XML document can be attached to that DTD. It should parse through that DTD structure. Or if I wanted to have separate DTD concepts for each XML document, I can have an inline DTD. That means along with the XML document, I will write my DTD part also. So if I do inline, then my document will be verified against my DTD. Okay. If it is inline, whatever I am writing there, that will be verified for that particular XML document only. But if it is an external DTD, it need not necessary that this particular XML document alone can be verified against it. Any XML document can be verified against it. Okay, so inline is more specific to that document. External is specific to the entire folder in which it lies. How to do internal DTD declarations and external DTD declarations and then validating it. This part we will discuss in the next class. So next class, when we start, what we will do is we will give you a question and then you will have to write the DTD. We will write a separate DTD documents, that is external, and then we will see how to link that external DTD with the XML document. And then we will see an example for inline DTD also. Okay. So that's the plan for the next class. In the lab session, what we will do is we will work on XML, start writing DTDs, and then how to parse that DTD against an XML document. So normal concepts we can try out. Okay, fine. We will wind up now. Guys, can we wind up now?
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.